E ngā mana, I ngā reo, I rao rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So we were set up by the construction and property sector to verify the quality of buildings and reduce impacts. And so we're about healthy, sustainable homes and buildings for New Zealanders, and our vision is better places proven. And that's a really key term because New Zealanders increasingly wanting evidence that things are green, so independent verification is a really key element of how we can drive change. So we're working with 73 other countries around the world, and we talk with those countries about how we can improve outcomes, health and well-being for our citizens, and also reduce environmental impacts. And that gives us access to the UN and the EU and others to work on this agenda. And it's just important to recognise our membership base in terms of driving change. So that comes from everybody from the public listed property companies that we were just talking about with Rita and others from Ignite, but also the banks. We're increasingly seeing the huge financial weight of financial institutions come to bear on wanting certification and green assets. Insurers, government, councils, engineers, architects and others involved in this who want to see more uptake and to drive real change for Aotearoa. Oh, and just to note, here you can see part of the direction of change from 31 members in 2006 to over 450 here. And one thing we're really proud of is delivering change for New Zealanders. So we now have 30,000 homes going through Homestar, our certification methodology for homes. So if you like less tax, you should like us, right? So we know we're saving millions of dollars of government taxpayer money in going into buildings and the running costs. So one example is Te Puni Kōkiri, a Greenstar certification, and they're now saving $80,000 a year in terms of their running bills. The other elements that are strongly coming through for Greenstar and why people want change is just stewardship of our land and the future, and also better outcomes for New Zealanders. So he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. That's better air quality, daylighting, acoustics and well-being in the building and better outside the building as well. These are some key elements. So I just wanted to talk you through three key things today. One is we now have tools for any new building and any existing building to certify to Greenstar. And this has happened because our members have said they wanted those tools for the complete range of the buildings they provide, the growth and uptake and the future. So I don't know if I need to tell you here, but the building code in New Zealand is pretty woeful by international standards, and you can see the OECD and International Energy Agency talking to that. So we've been working with and campaigning for change for about 3 years now. And I'm delighted to say that as a result of our influencing, we now have one of my team working with MB 1 day a week on making the case for changing the New Zealand Building Code. So that's pretty exciting. NZGBC was asked by its members to influence the building code, and we've worked at that consistently, and now we're working down at MB as an official looking at those changes. So that's everything, all the issues you can see there on the left-hand side we're looking at. Now that's going to take quite a long time, 4 or 5 years, but at least we're in the game and talking to it. And that's important because the built environment is a big part of our greenhouse gas emissions. So these are the Ministry for Environment greenhouse gas emissions from 2017, 2018. And if you look at the consumption-orientated view and the embodied carbon in our building products, then it's 20% of our total greenhouse gas emissions, which is quite significant. So the thing with Greenstar is we spend a lot of time talking with the sector about that and continue to improve it over time, and it's really gone through quite a transition, particularly in the last 2 years, and I'll talk to those. The thing I'm going to talk to is the launch of Greenstar Performance, which gives us a tool for any existing building in New Zealand, and Design and As-Built, which is a tool now for any new building being built. It's quite an exciting moment because it means we're now assessing hotels, retail, hospitals, education, office, industrial. If you can think of it, we're getting stuck in. It's a really exciting moment for us. So as a result of updates and hearing from the sector, we've come with a new tool to meet the requests that the sector was wanting. And it's just really important to note that we take our jobs as stewardship of the industry's tools really seriously. So I mean this genuinely. We consider the feedback that we get and we make reviews to our tools, and we do the same with design and as-built. So after much consultation, we brought in this tool and we made a number of significant changes. So there's now a mandatory built rating. That means that you can't only do design, you have to achieve certification at the built stage. It's for any type of new building. There's no weightings, which makes the calculations far simpler and quicker. There's fewer credits, so credits have been amalgamated to make it simpler to understand and get through. There's more performance-based pathways. So what do we mean by that? Well, in the past, maybe Jerome had to look at the prescriptive methodologies for calculating the water use in the building. It said, here's a point if you do all of these things. Now there's a calculator which allows you flexibility to consider quite a wide range of ways of meeting that tool, maybe innovative things you might be doing. There's more innovation challenges in the tool, which means you can do things that maybe we haven't considered at all within the tool and come up with solutions, so it's less of a checkbox exercise. And there's greater flexibility, so we're more open to the evidence that you might have. So that's design and as-built. That's available now, so we're now assessing hospitals and other types of buildings using that tool. And then in terms of existing buildings, the sector told us that they wanted a tool for any existing building, and this is amazing. We have 40,000 buildings in New Zealand. If we are to reach zero carbon and adapt to climate change, we need to be going after all of those buildings. So this tool is called Greenstar Performance. It provides an opportunity to measure the existing building's operational performance across a wide range of areas: energy, water, waste, indoor air quality and daylight. Identify opportunities for improvements and realise the many benefits of improving. So there's a wide range of building types there, and the thing that I find exciting is that there's a common language being created for our buildings. So this means that, say, John's walking around town and he goes into a supermarket, he'll see that it's 2-star, then he'll walk across town to the District Health Board and they maybe built that newer, so he'll see it's 5-star and he'll think, oh, that's quite good, that's a healthy, sustainable building. And then he'll walk into, say, Mason Brothers just here and he'll see that it's 6-star. And all of a sudden, all facilities managers in New Zealand, who we're working with quite closely, have a common understanding and a way to talk about buildings in New Zealand that focuses on sustainability and health and outcomes. So what people receive is a total star certificate across their portfolio. So we're now taking forward 10 buildings with one client, 5 buildings with another client, 3 buildings with another client. We're looking at 60 buildings for a separate client. And they get a score in each of the categories across their portfolio, but a specific score for each individual building. So people with, we have one client with 90 buildings and they're saying, great, I can look at the bottom quartile of my buildings, I can assess which areas they're failing on, and I can look to improve over the next 3 years, and then it gets re-rated. So the thing that gets exciting is that element that across New Zealand you're going to be able to look at any of these, any building type and understand how it compares with other types of buildings. So that common, easy to understand language. We've had some owners of buildings say, ours is a 1950s building, we think it might be a -2-star. And I've said, well, you can't actually achieve that, but even just starting here means that you're getting a sense of where you are and what you could improve. And there may be many buildings at 0, 1 or 2-star, but that's perhaps to be even more commended than the 5 or 6 star people because they're starting out on that journey. So it's a really exciting moment for New Zealand because in striving, as the sector's asked us to, for better places proven, we now have rating tools for any building type in New Zealand. If it's a new building or a fit out, you can use Greenstar. So Air New Zealand is fitting out all their lounges using Greenstar interiors, BNZ every single time. Auckland Council fitting out with Greenstar interiors, which means more of this great carpet I'm standing on here. Existing buildings, Greenstar performance across any existing building. Whole portfolio approaches, which means you've got that comparison, driving more Greenstar new build projects. Homes, 30,000 homes going through Homestar, and a new tool for existing homes, which I won't talk about. What does this mean? Well, it means that things are really cranking, simply. So we're not through 2018, 2019 yet, but you can see relative to previous years that this is a huge uptick, and we're only, what are we at? We're not at finish of third quarter, but when you combine existing buildings and new buildings, you get this huge increase in volume of the projects we've got on our books. And more importantly, perhaps, we're growing that to different types of sectors. So councils, retail, we're seeing different types of people get involved. And that's important because people really want green buildings. So this is Collier's research. They found that 93% of employees found it easier to attract staff in a green building. 95% of tenants want to work in a green building. So this is real stuff. Collier's International research 6 months ago, they found that Greenstar buildings had a 5-fold less vacancy rate than non-Greenstar buildings. So other reasons, it's in alignment with the vision of the organisation. It ensures performance. It makes green buildings simpler to understand. So I was at a meeting the other day with a university actually, and somebody said, my building's green because I have this ventilation system, I have this type of water system, I have this type of glazing, and we have this number of plants. And the person next said, I don't even know what that means. I don't know if that's green. Is that green? Turned to other people, are those things green? The engineer next to him said, I don't know without seeing the building. So we went around 4 more people and somebody said, I've got Greenstar 5-star. And the person said, do you know what that means? And she went, yeah, I know that's better than 4-star. Right? We're pretty dumb, really, aren't we? But a scoring system actually really helps. It's really fundamental to get to where we need to. Leadership inspires others. Buildings that work better. So people say to us, well, if you certify, does that actually mean you're going to get a better building? And I said, well, let's check. I don't know, let's go out and ask the sector. So we wrote to all of the main engineering firms, all of the main architectural firms. Here's what they said. So they said it's better integrated design, more likely to get an energy efficient building that works better, less likely to have sick building syndrome, just going to have a better building. It's worth it. We have a whole range, we have about 12 quotes here. I'm just, for sake of time, I'll just give you a few. Jasmax, great to see their support. He is sustainability leader at Christchurch Building Services. They said they're certifying every single time. I say, why? They said, we want certainty of the air quality, the daylight and the acoustics in the built stage at the end. We've published a value case for sustainable healthcare. Interestingly, on the back of that, Taranaki District Health Board is certifying Greenstar, their new hospital. Counties Manukau is requiring Greenstar certification, and we have 4 other hospitals looking at that. Great to see Minister Shaw show his support for that also. Other reasons people are driving this change significantly: the Zero Carbon Act, resilience from climate change, corporate social responsibility, and interest in productivity. The wave of investment coming that will be restricted to green assets is phenomenal. They've had a 10-fold increase in growth in the last 3 years. So we're now getting calls from overseas investors saying, is it Greenstar, is it Neighbours? We need to know the performance of this building. Why? Because directors are asking at the board level. Councils, we're getting calls from councils saying they want to green their assets, they want less climate change risk. This is partly because the Sustainable Development Goals are driving this change as well. So 9 of those relate to green buildings. So the future, the government have asked the Green Building Council for a zero carbon future for buildings. We've set that out to them. We're continuing to discuss across buildings and homes and the building code. The core part of that is a coalition we have with 70 other green building councils around the world, and that points to all new buildings operating at net zero carbon from 2030 and all existing buildings operating at net zero carbon by 2050. You can see the elements of it here, but fundamentally it starts with energy efficiency. Why are we rating buildings, right? Why do we do this? We do it because it fundamentally drives change, and we're going to transform the market. I genuinely can see that the market is transforming. What do I mean? Well, here, this is an example of a rating tool called NABERS in Australia. In 2007, it had 10% of office buildings were at 4, 5 or 6 star. And here's what happened as we started getting uptake, as we're seeing now. By 2010, that was 20%, just under 20%. 2016, that had been transformed. Each building you certify to Green Star encourages and drives change for others. And what did it mean? Benefits of $44 million to Australians. That was 4 years ago. It's now at closer to 80 million. And productivity gains of 168 million, so people had better air quality, daylight and acoustics in their building.